Has the youth of today actually lost their minds?
That there's a basic difference between this younger generation and the generation of their parents.
Has the youth of today lost direction?
Wait. Do you agree with that the youth doesn't have power?
No, they don't.
Youth today have become, even to a large extent, even our leaders today have become, and these old politicians are deflecting from the crises that we are faced with, and they are essentially just invoking the victories of the past without taking into cognizance that in the very real sense, the youth are outsiders.
Do we not know where we are going because we do not know where we come from?
The system has done so many things and so much harm to my people that the people are no longer interested in having equal rights with the white people in South Africa. They want the tables to be turned so that the white man can get a taste of his own medicine and feel what it was like to be oppressed.
This video is based on the youth of today in South Africa, where we are, where we come from, where we are headed, and whether we can change the current landscape that we are in as a devastated youth.
Without ascribing insignificance to other brave dates, I think it's very important for us to make it clear that the 76 uprising was not just about the imposition of Afrikaans as a medium for educational instruction, but it was a struggle that is still political in character, economic in substance, and anti-colonial in nature.
Let's go into the statistics. What have we done, 𝐌𝐮𝐬𝐤𝐜, as the youth of South Africa to deserve to be put in the position that we are in today?
South African youth are still facing challenges. Poverty.
They're unemployed, a lot of them.
Youth unemployment being, an emergency at this point.
The high food insecurity, people going to bed hungry.
Inequality still being at an all-time high.
Violence in our communities. Lack of services and infrastructure.
And gender-based violence are just a few of the issues that they are confronted with.
What have we done?
For us, it's not easy to dream, so I didn't like to smile.
Drug dens in our communities. 𝐼𝐮𝐬𝐤𝐜, what have we done? We can't know where we are going and where we are headed without first knowing where we come from. So let's start with the history of Youth Day, 1976, and the results that came from what that youth did for the youth of today. The June 16, 1976 uprising that began in Soweto and spread countrywide profoundly changed the socio-political landscape in South Africa. Events that triggered the uprising can be traced back to policies of the apartheid government that resulted in the introduction of the Bantu Education Act in 1953. The rise of the Black consciousness movement and the formation of the South African Students' Organization raised the political consciousness of many students, while others joined the wave of anti-apartheid sentiment within the student community. Lesson number 1, put your hand up and lead. No matter the community that you are in, no matter how dire the circumstances are, you, as the person central to your situation, as the person living in your community, put your hand up, say, I will lead. I will take on these dire circumstances that exist around me. I will mobilize and have people around me who have a similar vision, who are going through the same difficult situation, and will lead together. Examples already exist. Operation Tutula is there, leading the youth. Nhlanhla Lux as his leader. I've already done a video of Nhlanhla Lux. Here is the card right here. It's a 30-minute video where you can take and extrapolate 8 lessons from Nhlanhla Lux's journey. There are young people that exist in every facet, every industry, every community. You just need to stand up, put your hand up, and say, I will lead. When the language of Afrikaans alongside English was made compulsory as a medium of instruction in schools in 1974, black students began mobilizing themselves.
Dat beteken verstaan. Hy moet nou weer van voor af maats maak. Hy het 'n gawe klompie vriende gehad op Keerwerder, maar nou het sy pa besluit dat hy vir sy hoërskooljare in die koshuis op Verenwil moet kom bly.
On 16 June 1976, between 3,000 and 10,000 students mobilized by the South African Students' Movement's Action Committee, supported by the BCM, marched peacefully to demonstrate and protest against the government's directive. The march was meant to culminate at a rally in Orlando Stadium.
The schoolboy who led that day's protest was 19-year-old 𝐷𝐻𝐻𝐻 Mashinini.
All of a sudden, they just went out of their cars and came advancing towards us. The first white policeman threw a tear gas. It was the first time we saw a tear gas can. We didn't know even what it was. So when we saw it emitting smoke, we dispersed. And when we came back again. Maybe we thought they would talk to us through a loudspeaker or something like that. All of a sudden, the same policeman who threw the tear gas canister opened fire on the students. I was with Hector Peterson when he was shot. The boy who was in that picture where a boy was carrying.
The law of the country was that we're not allowed to take pictures of anything that the police have done. So I knew I was risking my life. The last picture that I took with this camera is for Hector Peterson, June 16, 1976.
He was the first student I saw going down. I saw him being shot on the head and he fell down. I could not believe it. I saw a boy of about 11 going down under police fire. I could not believe it. Apparently, when Hector was shot, the students ran back, and I was left with Hector and a girl. I was feeling scared, and I wanted to run away too. And this policeman was aiming his gun at Hector again, wanting to finish him off. And this girl stood in front of Hector and told the policeman in Afrikaans that "skit for me, shoot for me." And the policeman deviated his aim and shot in the air. And then we took that Hector and gave him to some boys, and they took him to the car, which appeared in those pics in the UBJ bulletin.
On their pathway, they were met by heavily armed police who fired tear gas and later live ammunition on demonstrating students. This resulted in a widespread revolt that turned into an uprising against the government. While the uprising began in Soweto, it spread across the country and carried on until the following year. Lesson number 2. If you believe in politics, then the next time you have to go and vote, vote smartly and not emotionally. A lot of the challenges that exist in our communities right now can be attributed to these politicians that we follow. No matter the party, there are negatives and positives. Vote smartly. Look at their policies. Look at what they've done. If the party that you are voting for has been given a chance in government for years and years since we were given our freedom, then perhaps consider giving another party a chance. Do not be afraid to let a different party take the lead. The situation may improve, it may be better, because in the beginning stages, they will have something to prove. So vote smartly and not emotionally. The aftermath of the events of June 16, 1976 had dire consequences for the apartheid government. Images of the police firing on peaceful demonstrating students led an international revulsion against South Africa, as its brutality was exposed. Meanwhile, the weakened and exiled liberation movements received new recruits who were fleeing political persecution at home, giving impetus to the struggle against apartheid. Lesson number 3, become an all-rounded human being. Be spiritually inclined and enlightened. Be mentally healthy. Be physically strong. And take the lead socially as well. Know that your positioning of yourself can be the difference between your community making it and your community not making it. Your community coming out tops and your community lacking direction. Be a fully rounded, informed and knowledgeable human being. One that can mobilize, one that can lead, one that can draw followers, one that can put up partnerships, one that can gather stakeholders, one that creates a particular and similar vision, a core opportunity, and core goals.
Are you honestly sorry that these changes have occurred?
No, I'm not sorry. I like to see them come up, but at the same time, can I say that I would rather see it coming up with some education, but they've got no education, and it'll take them a couple of 100 years. They've only just come down from the trees.
Let's talk about the Bantu education policy for just a bit. The word Bantu in the term Bantu education is highly charged politically and has derogatory connotations. The Bantu education system was designed to train and fit Africans for their role in the newly 1948 evolving apartheid society.
Bantu education prepares the black child for a subsequent role in society.
We make your water soapy, and then we can steep the cottons. Because cotton is stronger when wet than when dry, so we can rub it in the hands. Now just show me how to rub this. Show me. Show us the rubbing. Let's get those three to come and do this rubbing here.
They give us Bantu education so that they can justify their racial discrimination against blacks. It teaches that we can never do things like they do, because at all times the black man must remain subservient to a white man. That the black man must never be able, to compete with the white man in job situations.
Education was viewed as part of the overall apartheid system, including homelands, urban restrictions, pass laws, and job reservation. This role was one of the laborer, the worker, and the servant only. As H.F. Verwoerd, the architect of the Bantu Education Act in 1953, conceived it, I quote, "There is no place for the African in the European community above the level of certain forms of labor. It is of no avail for him to receive a training which has as its aim absorption in the European community." The next lesson, we still have time on our side. We need to know our history. We need to know where we come from so that we know where we are headed. The champions of 1976 are in their 60s right now. They played a key and fundamental role in making sure that the education that you get today is fundamentally stronger than what they had. What they were forced to read and study, what they were forced to learn and regurgitate when it's examination time, wasn't meant to uplift you as a black person. So you have to use yourself, elevate yourself, and elevate those around you based on the time and opportunity that you now have, based on the lessons of the past that you've learned. Work harder, learn more, grow more, and use that time constructively so that as the current youth, the youth that is following us, the next generation, when we are in our 60s, they don't need to sing the very same song. And we don't need to put ourselves and bear the brunt of the consequences of not acting when we had the chance. Because of the government's homelands policy, no new high schools were built in Soweto between 1962 and 1971. Students were made to move to their relevant homeland to attend the newly built schools there. Then in 1972, the government gave in to the pressure from business to improve the Bantu education system to meet businesses' need for a better trained black workforce. 40 new schools were built in Soweto. Between 1972 and 1976, the number of pupils at secondary schools increased from 12,656 to 36,656. 1 in 5 Soweto children were attending secondary school.
We need to look at the youth of 76 and take example from them. The youth of 76 were willing to lay their lives down to attain the freedoms that we are enjoying today. We need to take a chapter from their book, and we need to be able to reorganize ourselves as young people with a clear strategic objective of achieving not only free, quality, decolonized education, but also access to the economy.
All I'm saying is there's power in unity. That's all.
Yeah.
Sure.
I agree.
Oh, definitely.
The class of 1976 bravely took to the streets and overturned the whole notion that workers were the only essential force to challenge the apartheid regime. Indeed, they succeeded where their parents had failed. They not only occupied city centers but also closed schools and alcohol outlets.
What gives you hope about this country? What keeps you going and gives you the energy that we are seeing from you?
The last lesson, never give up hope. Generations to come, the youth that's coming will rely on our legacy. So we need to fight and emancipate our people today. We need to make sure that as the youth of today, our children do not suffer the same fate. The very same disparities, disadvantages, disenfranchisement that our kids and our families actually see and achieve today, they don't need to go through the very same thing. So we need to put our hope into action today. Again, mobilize, strengthen, see the opportunity, put your hand up and say, I will lead. Put forth a philosophy, a strategy that people can follow and implement in different and various communities in which they operate. Open up the industry so that young people can come in. Government, politics, politician, parliament, they need young people, they need young minds. And when you look at the trajectory that this country is going in, it's not a positive one. But we don't want our kids to suffer the fate that many of the young South Africans are suffering today.
𝐷 Goes Lady, the youth are here, the energy is here, but unfortunately the power is not. On June 16, which is this month, I'll be part of one of the biggest non-political youth gatherings since Fees Must Fall.
What do you want to say to the people that are listening right now, baby girl?
I don't know.
You don't want them to subscribe?
Yeah, I do.
Tell them to subscribe then.
Subscribe to this video.
To the channel, actually.
To the channel, actually.
Tell them you love them.
I love you.
1,000.
1,000 likes.
Oh yeah, they must like. Tell them to like.
Please like this video. And please subscribe to 100,000 likes.
Do you girls love me?
Yes, Dad.
And I love you. 1,000. Booyaka.
Boo boo booyaka. Boo boo booyaka.